Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we celebrate and discuss the film Raiders of the Lost Ark 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Christy Porter, standing in for Jerry Porter.
You are the Forrestal to Jerry's Indy, maybe?
Yeah, except that Forrestal's dead.
That's what
that's not so useful.
Never mind. So sorry. And joining us again today are John and Mitch from the Alien Minute.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Having a blast. This is great.
Awesome. We are here to discuss minute 58 of Raiders, which begins with Belloc theorizing about the location of the Ark, and it ends with Indy on top of the Well of Souls, we assume.
Well, this minute starts with something that I like. There's a guy right behind people who's dressed kind of like Indy is later in the movie, where he's wearing a Nazi disguise. And he's also using a surveyor's level to stare at the obelisk. And I've always kind of liked to think that this guy is a secret archaeologist, kind of like Indy. He's infiltrating the scene, but he's there to actually document the actual sites before Belloc and Indy destroy all of them.
I like it.
Do you have fan fiction about him?
I'm going to.
That's actually not a bad point. I wonder just how, if the Americans found out about this, are there other nations or other just freelance archaeologists who are like, oh my gosh, the Germans are in Tanis. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah,
is the place just flooded?
Yeah. There's someone from Argentina, someone from Belgium.
Yeah.
They've all got their own movie going on right now.
Yeah. I'm Bangladesh Smith. That's my Bangladesh Smith impression.
That movie really never got out of the box, did it?
No.
No.
Not like it should have.
No.
But a couple of minutes ago we were talking about, hey, are they sort of taking a sort of new sort of scattershot tack at this finding the Ark thing? And Belloc here is sounding, he's still, he's carrying himself well, and he seems pretty confident, but he doesn't sound, if you listen to what he's saying, he doesn't sound that confident anymore. It's the first time you're kind of like, well, Ark's got to be around here somewhere, right?
Well, he actually says maybe there's a vital piece of information that escapes us, which is actually 100% accurate.
Yeah.
He's actually correct about that, and I find that very interesting. He's right about their problem, and then I think, I was watching. I've never thought about this before, analyzing it this way. I have to think that the Germans are probably right that she might be able to help them. She's very familiar with that medallion,
Mm-hmm.
and I bet if you use these tactics they're inferring, she might tell you that there's some information on the other side of it, and it's kind of interesting here. Our villains might be right on the money with everything they're saying. And I found this like an interesting conversation in that respect.
It's true. And before we had the Germans kind of trying to take Belloc down a peg and question him and complain that he's not doing things fast enough for the Fuhrer's sake. And, but here they're finally kind of being like, oh, whatever, Belloc. Because he's like, I never noticed it before, but he's like, perhaps it is in some antechamber, perhaps or whatever. And then Gober's like, perhaps the girl can help us. Like, I never took that perhaps to be like Belloc's perhaps that he's using against him. Like, shut up, Belloc. Maybe the girl can help us. Enough with your theories.
And to Belloc's credit, he does not like the idea that they're going to torture Miriam. So we got to give him a couple of little points. He's nicer to her than Indy is right now.
He's a better boyfriend, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of what makes him, to me, I'm a big fan of villains that I can occasionally relate to, at least. And
right.
In this moment, you get this like glimmer of humanity from him, and I like that. Belloc's not what you would call a big bad, I guess is how they refer to it, like a Darth Vader kind of villain.
Right.
But he's a complex villain, and he's I tend to think that he's not flat out, evil as much as he's just brutally and unethically competitive, and doesn't value human life as much as you and I do. But he's just not straight evil, and that makes him so much more interesting to me than some of your other more basic villains.
Well, we've been talking a lot about how he and Indy are really sort of mirror images of each other. And in a lot of ways, it's hard to tell which guy's the good guy and which guy's the bad guy because they both have so many complexities going on. But I think his mentioning Marion and trying to sort of save her here is another good example of that mirroring.
I will point out that Belloc does hang out with Nazis, so that's one point against him.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that right there you could deduce that he's a little worse than Indy, but
That's true.
Well, he's just no. Actually, he's only doing it to further his own gains because he insists that he gets what he wants. He plans all the time, all along, that it's not really about them. He's going to do whatever he wants with the Ark.
That's true.
So I mean, it's true. He's quite mercenary. But he's definitely not evil. He's mercenary and cold, but he's not that interested in politics, as it were. So
well, to me, that kind of raises a question that just occurred to me. What if the Nazis were the ones that came to Indy instead of the American government? Would Indy have just done what Belloc does?
Well, it's interesting because Belloc is kind of playing the Nazis, like he's sort of using them to his advantage, whereas Indy is just kind of going along with the program. Like he's sort of doing what the U.S. government is telling him to do, and he doesn't seem to be sort of playing the government the same way that Belloc is.
Yeah, he's sort of trusting his government.
He wants to find the Ark. That's the main thing. That's all he cares about.
Yeah,
I think the government they're just financiers to him. He doesn't have any political interest in this at all. And to him, it's just, Brody came to him and said they're, going to pay handsomely for it. They gave him presumably the money to fly and, across that map to any place he wants to go. And to me, I don't think Indy gives the government and their wishes a second thought for the rest of this movie. As a matter of fact, obviously, it doesn't turn out so good in the end for him when he. I mean, I'm getting way ahead. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
That's all right.
So here's a question then: if they're both self-interested, and that's really what they represent, self-interest, and then the other guy is self-interest, then I can see right away that Indiana Jones is a guy who is motivated by academic inquiry and curiosity, self-interest, but for curiosity's sake. What would Belloc be self-interested in why did he become an archaeologist? If it's not academic research.
Gold.
I'm not sure I buy the Indy academic research. I think that one might be gold too. I think both of them might be gold.
Yeah.
I think at least Indy there's a hint at the end. Do we know? I'm trying to think now. Do we know what Belloc is other than a mercenary? Does he happen to be a mercenary who is educated in the field of archaeology? He's not a professor at the Paris Institute of Archaeology or anything, is he? I mean, we never talk about that.
Somebody mentioned on Facebook, I don't remember if it was in the novel or if it was in one of the other books or something, that in some place Belloc actually stole one of Indy's papers, like academic papers, and put his own name to it. So
Plagiarist?
if we
That's
buy into that,
really interesting.
he would at
That's
least
actually
be a professor somewhere.
Would he have to be a professor to be a published a publisher of plagiarized materials?
Probably. Yep.
Well, is either of these guys?
Kirby Doug.
Yeah, they might both just be pretending to be archaeologists.
They both have hats. That's all you need.
True. It's true. Well, I mean, Belloc says that when they're back in Cairo, he says, we're the same, you and I. Only Belloc doesn't seem to be employed by anybody, particularly. But no, I think Indy is interested in the academic research because he says the museum gets the Ark at the end, and Marcus says, yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be like the ultimate end game for him. Is like what is supposed to happen to the world's lost or hidden antiquities. I guess if they're in a museum, they are safe and protected and studied. And yeah, so in that sense, it seems like, he sounds at least like a scientific historian dude. And that he's not he's not going to Marrakesh to sell this stuff. He's not going to go to Marrakesh and sell the Ark if he gets it. Whereas Belloc immediately would.
So then why did you say that Indy was gold, like had the gold bug?
Because he does sometimes.
I mean, in the first part of the movie, he destroys an entire archaeological scene to get a piece of gold.
Yeah.
So he's a klutz.
Yeah, I think it's just a huge klutz. He's a well-intentioned dummy.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. Okay.
Well, and Belloc, he's not going to be able to sell this thing either.
That's
like,
true.
He knows full well. I mean, he's got the Nazis hanging over him. So his motivations must be almost the same as Indy. I think we're kind of deducing that here. They both it's about the conquest of the discovery. And in the end, that's what they care about. I'm not sure. I think that maybe there's a Last Crusade influence on any perception that Indy really cares about a museum, because they make a big thing out of that in the Last Crusade. I'm not sure he cares at all when Brody says that. He says that and he's just like, oh, cool. We're going to get the Ark. I don't really get the idea that he was excited about the museum concept. I think that was more Brody.
Right.
But
yeah, that's a good point.
And Brody assures him that the artifacts that he got will be bought by the museum. So Indy's making some money off of this too.
That's true. And Belloc is the only one who seems to have any interest in getting the Ark for the Ark's sake. Like, he has plans to use the Ark when he gets it. Indy, as far as we know, is like, oh yeah, I'll put it in a box, I'll ship it to the U.S., I'll sign the paper, I'll sign the bill of lading, and the end.
So maybe Belloc's the one that's more, they use the term occult a couple of times early in the film. Maybe he's the one that's more interested in the occult. He actually wants to see the application of these things. He's a believer. I guess this might be the disparity between the two of them. Indy's the skeptic and Belloc's the believer. Maybe that's the difference.
That could be. By the way, is this Gobler's only line in the entire movie when he says, perhaps the girl can help us? It might be.
It's a really well-read line if it is. I think
it is.
I think he knocks that line reading.
He nailed it.
That was his audition. Here, read this. You're the one. Which leads to, I should be making a list, but this might be the single best moment of the entire movie. I'll just put that out there.
I agree.
The arrival of Tote.
Pretty good.
And his Heil Hitler, and you see the thing on his hand. I have to say something about this. This is, I think I mentioned this a while ago when they were at Doug Henning's house and he was deciphering the headpiece of the Staff of Ra. And they said that there was a different, in the script, in the screenplay, when Belloc and Indy are talking in the bar in Cairo, Belloc says something like, oh, you shouldn't have made such a big fuss about trying to get the headpiece because the guy in this earlier version of the screenplay who you got it from actually had copies of it made. And that's how Belloc got his he had a copy that he got from a guy of the headpiece that had nothing to do with Tote burning his hand on it. But this is such an incredible moment. There's so much happening in this one weird, bald, sweaty guy dressed completely in black approaching. Because first you're like, oh no, Tote's here. They're going to use him on Marion. This is horrible. We forgot about this guy. And so that's going through your head. And then he holds up his hand and you understand everything that has happened for like the last hour of the movie. You're like, oh, that's how they did it? That's how they thought they had calculations? And that's why they were wrong? And it's just an incredible moment.
Well, I got to tell you, Tom, this is the moment for me too. I consider this to probably be the best moment. And it was, I didn't get to see this movie until about 1987 or so on VHS. And I think, it's been my endeavor my whole life to make movies, or at least write movies and tell stories cinematically in some way. And I would not exaggerating by saying this might have been the Thunderbolt moment for me. This is the first time screenwriting as a concept ever occurred to me. And I didn't know how to articulate it at the time or anything, but it was so clever to me, this reveal. And all these pieces, like you said, all these pieces started falling into place. And I'd never had anything in a movie quite strike me that way. And that was when I first started thinking, man, this is movies right here. This is what you're going for. At least when you're making, at the time, everything I watched was popular cinema. So when you're making popular cinema, this is the kind of moments you're looking for.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about, talking about the screenplay as you are. We talk a lot about on our show, on Alien Minute, about how often Alien, they made the choice to withhold information and wait for that perfect time to reveal it, knowing that it would hit the audience in a certain way. And this is one of those moments here. It's so good that they didn't reveal earlier that they had copies of the headpiece or anything, because this moment's so perfect.
Yeah.
And nobody has to say anything. I mean, that's the final. It all just like you said, Tom. It all just floods into your head as an audience member, and it's pure cinema. It's just everything has been put in its perfect place, and then bang, everything flips on that one person raising their hand, flips everything. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah.
I completely didn't get that as a kid when I was watching it. And
Oh,
it took
really?
me, no, I did not know that that's where they got their wrong calculations and so forth. Something that for this moment, not to steal the thunder of the moment, it is a good moment. It's terrific, and it is a great reveal. Something I had never noticed before is that he mispronounces Heil Hitler. He actually says Hail Hitler.
He
Am
says
I the
Hail.
only person? He says Hail.
He's such a bad Nazi.
Wait.
Which when my husband was in here earlier and heard that, he started to sing the Michigan fight song, like "Hail to the Victors," which that would not be the right tune for this moment.
No.
He mispronounces his German in Marion's bar too.
Yeah, we
Oh
don't
my
know what
gosh.
he's saying in Marion's bar.
Yeah,
He says
exactly.
Wow, I didn't realize. Okay.
I want to listen to that again. Are you sure that he couldn't just be putting some kind of I want him to be right. I want him to say Heil Hitler correctly.
no,
He does.
Hail Hitler.
because he also
Says
says
Hail.
Yeah,
He says
he
Hail.
says Fräulein instead of Fräulein.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
No excuse, man. I mean, Hail Hitler is actually the way you might say it in the South here, where I live.
I think they do, don't they? Quite often.
Hail Hitler. Oh no.
Sorry.
No. Back off.
Sorry. Just a joke.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
But
care how
here's
he does it.
another-
It's
here's-
awesome and perfect.
Maybe
Here's
Toad's
another
not
question
really
I had.
German. Oh, go
What's
ahead.
that?
Oh, I was just gonna say maybe he's not German. Maybe he's I don't know Dutch or something else.
Maybe
German's is not his first language.
he's Swiss.
Canadian.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Of course not. Of course not.
Well, the Germans don't sweat. The Frenchman sweats. The Egyptian sweats.
Toad sweats.
The American sweat. He only sweats later. When he arrives and he's all dressed up in black and he's got his little tie on.
No, he's been
got an
sweating
overcoat?
since before he was born. He's been sweating every frame that he's been in this movie.
Is that right?
Oh yes.
I
I
thought
think he's
for sure
I
they
think
were.
he's dabbing his forehead here, isn't he? I can't remember.
Oh, he might be on his approach as he's walking
I
up.
can't
Maybe.
remember. You might be right though. I'm
Huh.
not sure if he is.
Yeah,
Well, maybe I
our
was so distracted by his mispronunciation.
I think our only clean and pressed person so far is Belloc.
No,
Yeah.
no. He's wearing a little sweatband, and the
Is that
two
what that
Germans.
clear goggles thing?
I thought it was goggles. Yeah. Is
Yeah,
it
it's
not?
like
It is goggles. It is
Oh,
goggles.
okay.
It looks like a sweatband though.
Oh, but he has that
Like-
little cravat thing around his neck that he's
Yeah.
wearing.
Yep.
His sweat cravat.
Yeah, sweat cravat. Yeah, kind of gross, really. But the two Nazis that he's talking with, they are completely pressed in this one, and they are not sweating. And I don't know how they handle that. I don't know how they handle the heat.
Especially in those wool uniforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous.
But Ronald Lacey is the king. I can't believe how good he is in this movie.
Well, I guess I should say I met Ronald and I knew him and
Stop.
what
That's so awesome.
That is really cool.
I did. He was a sweetheart and he was this amazing guy and a couple of things that were interesting about him. He told me that when they were making the movie that there was one day that they were going out to location and he looked ahead of him and there in this open Jeep were Lucas and Spielberg just roaring along on these dirt roads, you know. and he said he was both awed and terrified because on one hand there's all this unbelievable talent right there in that Jeep, and it looks like they're going to crash the damn thing any second.
Oh no!
Because he said they were like a couple of kids just on this adventure, but he kind of got to where he was sort of legendary for his auditions, and when he auditioned for The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, he came up with that whole Orson Welles getup and went in and auditioned that way and just sort of blew everybody out of their seats.
Oh my gosh.
And then when you made that joke about the dress being for him, he did several movies where he did him in total drag. And
You're kidding.
No, he did one.
Oh my gosh.
There was one, what was it called? There was a movie with Margot Kidder called Trenchcoat. And he was in that, and he was total drag. I think he did 3 different films in drag. And in one of those instances, again, he went in and did the audition that way. And they're like, how can we say no? Look at you.
Oh my gosh.
He really was an extraordinary character and really, really sweet guy.
Did you meet him as an adult or as a kid?
I met him as an adult. For a short period of time, I was supposed to write and direct this sort of sword and sandal sorcery movie in Italy in the late 80s, and he had been working on several Italian films at that time, and the producer knew him from that, and so they were friends, and we all got together, and so he was supposed to have been in that. Never happened, but that was how I got to meet him. So and then I saw him socially a few other times after that.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I'm about to lose all my nerd cred. I can't think of who he plays in Buckaroo Banzai. I'm not even sure I knew he was in that.
He plays
I definitely know that.
he plays the president who looks just like Orson Welles.
Oh my God.
And you remember there's that whole business about how the aliens hypnotized Orson Welles and he made up the War of the Worlds. I mean, there's all this crazy story that Jeff Goldblum gives this big speech. But yeah, that was that. And I think he's in some kind of weird traction apparatus or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
that's
God, I can't believe
him.
that's him.
Well, this
And he's
is,
also
this
in Flesh
is
and
kind
Blood,
of disturbing. Well, he's
was
supposed to be all
also-
deep and scary. I'm sorry. He's
go ahead.
It's supposed to be dark and scary, and now if he's in drag, I mean, what am I supposed to think?
He also got hung up by Paul Verhoeven hung him up for a couple of many days on Flesh and Blood. He said it was the most horrible experience of his life because
Oh my God.
he had to hang, all day long in a dungeon or something.
Oh my God. Thanks, Paul Verhoeven.
Well, you'd be disappointed if you didn't hear a story like that about Paul.
Exactly, yeah.
That's-
What do you
I thank
expect?
Paul Verhoeven every day for what he's done for us. So
Oh, of course. The RoboCop minute. Sorry.
well, you just gave somebody. I'd be really surprised if somebody doesn't do that at some point.
I know.
It would be a lot of fun.
That'd be awesome. I'd listen. Oh, okay. So Toad shows up. Best part of the movie. It's all downhill from here. But then Indy's walking uphill. I did that just now. To the top of where he believes the Well of Souls is. And I'm just thinking this time as I was watching it, I don't quite get. I get that Tanis was buried by a sandstorm, but it seems like why is this structure? It's not buried, but it's encased in sand. Like I don't fully get what happened over the course of a year to leave the Well of Souls sort of raised but buried. You know what I'm saying?
How did
I
they
do.
miss it? They've excavated all around it, and nobody's noticed that big hill over there.
They were maybe the Nazis were the next day they were going to find it. It was on their order of business for the next day. Let's just clear off the rest of that sand off that dune over there and see what we got.
That
I've
one
been having their
dude.
picnics up there.
The dune with the very weird shaped rocks making a circle around the top of it.
Yeah, those almost ornamental rocks.
And the man in the brown pants. I mean, talk about not staying in costume. So, she doesn't recognize him when he's got half of his face covered by, his turban. But then, he's the only guy who is in a turban and robe and brown pants.
It's true.
It's not very subtle. Again, not subtle.
It's a movie. He's Indiana Jones.
There's a nice moment here where Indy starts running up the hill, And Sala kind of holds back the rest of the diggers with the wave of his hand. It's kind of letting Indy have his moment.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's awesome.
Scrooge McDuck.
What?
Right? Scrooge McDuck again. You know,
Really?
like well, of course, because it has to be the Western guy who has to
Yeah.
make the. You know, we're just exploiting the workers. We're just.
It
gonna
is a very-
steal.
Yeah, very colonial minute.
Oh, wait, that happens in Scrooge McDuck?
Oh, Tom, maybe you should go back and listen to the minutes that
I
I'm on.
listened to the references to Scrooge McDuck. That doesn't mean that I know everything that connects to this movie.
Well-
Yoda.
Why yada. That's right.
Anyway, Scrooge McDuck, everyone.
It's Scrooge McDuck minute. That's right.
Well, does anybody... Oh, sorry.
I never get over how spectacular this set is. Like
I was going to say that. Yeah, that's
when you stand
incredible.
there, like they have the elevated minecart tracks crisscrossing the horizon, and horses and water towers and scaffolding and guys shoveling. It's really amazing.
Yeah, there's like 300 extras in there. I was counting them last night. I was thinking, how big is this? 300 extras: camels, donkeys, horses, carts. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like, and it's all one beautiful sweeping shot from them walking there, Indy going up the hill, camera booming up. I mean, it's David Lean, John Ford stuff, and then they stay on that camera stays in that position all through the rest of, as we move into the next minute, all through the rest of that scene. I mean, he does so much with that one setup, and he just gives it to you all in one like that, and it's stirring, it's sweeping, it's amazing.
Yeah. How long did that take to render, do you think? That whole background. You just do not see that anymore.
No.
You don't see like evidence of people working for weeks and weeks building sets that are going to be used for a 1-minute shot.
And it's so perfectly complemented because that amazing arc theme that John Williams wrote sort of starts to swell in right as
Yeah,
he's
it
going up
does.
the hill too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a story about this little bit, but it actually plays more into the next minute, so has to do with the music and just this overall scene. So, but I'll talk about it tomorrow.
That's what we call a tease.
John gets called to tease all the time.
Oh yeah, that's what I do.
Perfect. Oh, by the way, guys, I don't know if you noticed this, but as of this minute, we are halfway through this movie.
No,
Yes.
I just wanted to go on and on.
Well, we're doing it minute by minute, Christy. We're doing what we can to make it last as long as possible. There's a limit. So yeah, you've seen us through the hump so far, guys. Thank you.
We've reached the midpoint peripetia where everything begins to flip.
Oh my gosh, do you think Toad holding up his hand is the literal center of the film?
Kind of is.
Like if
I
you
guess.
measured it out?
Yeah.
It's either that or it's opening the door in the floor to reveal that the ark is down there. It's one or the other, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got woozy. This is exciting.
Sit down, Tom.
I'm sorry. Well, okay, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to lay down, put some ice on my forehead. Let's all come back here tomorrow. But before we go, guys, where can people find the Alien Minute and enjoy the same process with another incredible movie?
Well, you can find us at alienminute.com or at Alien Minute Pod on Twitter. And you can also subscribe to us on iTunes and the Stitcher app.
Awesome. Pete, where can people find our show so that they can bounce between our two shows for a while?
You can find us at indianajonesminute.com and talk to us on Facebook. And if you haven't yet, join our listeners group, Indiana Jones and the Listener Crusade on Facebook.
And I should say, we're not just bouncing between the two of us. There's also the Wrath of Khan Minute. There's the Goodfellas Minute, which is wrapped up, but it's still there. There's Back to the Future Minute. There's Jaws Minute. Did I say that already? There's... Who am I forgetting?
Star Wars Minute.
Star
Oh,
Wars
yeah.
minute.
I wasn't being sarcastic. The Star Wars Minute, who, of course, are the geniuses who started this whole thing. And we're all just riding on their coattails. But yeah, check out... I feel bad, though. I feel like I missed one. I want to mention all of them.
I think you got them all.
Okay. Maybe you're
Pretty
right.
sure.
Okay.
I feel really bad saying that if it is not true.
I know. I'm scared.
Sorry, whoever we left out. If you,
We'll get you next time. I'll edit it in later. All right. So please come back tomorrow and join us for minute 59 of Raiders of the Lost Ark here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Perhaps Jones?
Perhaps Heil.
Or Hale.
Or Hale. Either one.